Okay, this is episode 2 of the podcast Tales of Fairy Tales of Old. This is not part 2 of the Charlotte's Web book. I'm going to be reading more of that a different day. Today, we are reading a sapphic retelling of Sleeping Beauty called Malice. The author is Heather Walter, and this is the first book of the series. And I've read it a bit in the past, and I'm still reading it in my own time, but I want to read it for you guys as well. Also, you may see a shift in my content where I'm posting more on YouTube than I am on Twitch. That is mostly because I am feeling fairly disconnected and just not as if I want to continue streaming on Twitch, as it does not seem to be working out for me. I'm going to be posting more on YouTube than really anything else, and I'm doing a shift in my type of content that I am doing. So you'll be seeing more of that as well. But let's get that out of the way. Get that big major thing out of the way. And start reading. Part 1. Briar King, you mortals may think yourselves above such counsel, but I must urge you once again to enter the villa. There was a war fought over the extermination of these beasts, though your memory is too fickle to recall it. And to welcome another, even a half-breed, into your realm will surely bring ruin. If you insist on so reckless a path as to let the creature live, know this, you were warned. Missive from Endelwild, Lord Ambassador of the Fey Courts, to Tarkin Briar King, Age of the Rose, 976. Chapter 1, Age of the Rose, 996. The golden bell above my doorframe bobs twice. I roll my shoulders against the needling ache that settles at the base of my neck. Whenever that damn thing sounds, after nearly a decade of hearing it, I've come to despise the bell's shrill, tinny clang almost as much as the message it carries. A patron is coming. When it was first installed, my bell gleamed like those the Graces use in their parlors. But now, seeing as the servants conveniently forget to polish it, a mottled green tarnish clings to the thing like a scaly skin. Fitting, I think, that I should have the ugliest bell in Lavender House, when I am by far the ugliest creature living inside it. Alice, my own name on my patron's schedule, glares up at me when I glance at the next appointment beneath it, the dark Grace. Grace, indeed. If I were truly a Grace, I'd be receiving my patrons in a sunny parlor with silk-upholstered chairs. Ooh, ow. Just hit my arm, elbow on my desk. And trays of spongy cream-frosted tea cakes. Instead, I'm banished to a converted storage annex attached to Lavender House's kitchen. It's yet another reason Cook hates me. The space was once a larder, and now Cook complains every chance she gets that there isn't enough storage space in the cellar. I catch her grumbling curses at me when she thinks I'm out of earshot, as if this insufferable chamber is some kind of prize. There are no windows A dank chill seeps through the rotting mortar, even in the summer heat, and the wretched hearth, hastily added once I opened my practice, clogs more often than not, filling my lair with a perpetual smoky scent and smearing soot on every surface. It's more a dragon's lair out of a story than a parlor in a Grace house. Rose dubbed it such soon after she arrived. The lair where the dark Grace dwells. I hate the place so much that I didn't even fight her. Callow ruffles as the bell jangles a second time. As annoyed as I am at the intrusion, I offer my kestrel a few meat trimmings snuck from beneath cook's nose. What do you think this one wants? Callow shakes out her white speckled wings in a decidedly irritated fashion, and nudges my hand with her head, and I suppose there's no point putting off any longer. Enter! The chamber door squeals, and I can tell immediately from the footsteps that it isn't one of my regulars. They're anxious, hesitant, a startle away from turning and bolting. I wish they would turn and bolt. Whispering apologies to Callow, I fix her hood over her head. She's easier to handle this way, especially around strangers. I'd found the kestrel as a chick some years ago, half dead and starving on the sea cliffs outside Briar's main gates. Though I'm no healing Grace, I was able to nurse her back to health with what tinctures I can concoct. She's never taken to anyone else, not that I blame her. Mistress Lavender said it would have been kinder to kill the bird, and one of the servants mistook her for a rat and nearly bludgeoned her to death. The maid was lucky I didn't return the favor. The nervous patron hovers in my doorway, hood close around her face, despite the oppressive salt-soaked heat of the late summer. The firelight flits over her features, sharpening her cheekbones, hollowing her eye sockets. Definitely not irregular. She looks like she thinks I'm going to roast her over a spit, as if my pathetic hearth is large enough to manage that. Would that it could. Your Grace. The edges of her brocade cloak tremble as she scrapes a curtsy. What brings you here? I stroke Callow's snowy breast with one finger, affecting the cool, detached manner people expect from the dark Grace. I don't ask her name. Within these walls, she doesn't have one. Patrons do not come to my lair seeking beauty or charm or wit, as they would in a Grace's parlor. They come for revenge, for cruelty. Services provided at a steep price, and that price includes anonymity. I I have a cat. She stumbles, blushes at her own threadbare deception. I resist the urge to roll my eyes. My patrons have always spared less than a half a thought to creating a decent backstory. Briar's Grace laws prevent the use of their magic for ill will, which should directly prohibit my line of work. But I am the only Grace of my kind, and all I do is prepare the elixirs. Once the vials leave my hands, it's up to the patrons to dispose of them as they please. As long as I don't know I'm party to an attack on another citizen, I cannot be held liable for my patron's actions. Besides that, my elixirs cost 3 times the average rate of those of a Grace, and if I stopped working, the crown wouldn't get its cut. A cat. I school my features into the neutral expression I've perfected over the years. Yes, a cat, she fiddles with the buttons at her sleeves. A cat too pretty for its own good. She's getting too much attention from the other cats. Dragon's breath, she's even worse than the others. And I once had a man tell me his own rose garden smelled too nice and was attracting bees. And you wish to... I don't want to harm the cat. the woman says automatically. I just want to give her a few warts. A standard ugliness elixir. Her gaze brightens in the gloom. How predictable. New patrons are always so grateful when I offer suggestions. I think it makes them feel less like the villain, like they didn't come here specifically to do harm to someone they've convinced themselves deserves it. The patron nods and I motion her to sit at a worn wooden table near the hearth as I start assembling ingredients for the elixir: swamp water, a dash of powdered nightshade, and for the warts I cart over the short, boxy cage that houses my toad, Prince Marcan. The woman stammers, flinching as I plop his highness on the table in front of her. He lets out a belchy croak. Only the crackle of the flames and the grind of the pestle break the silence as I work. I'm grateful sometimes my patrons try to plump up their lies, offering needless explanations and sugar-coated stories, hoping I'll nod along, make it easier on their consciences. I never do. They deserve whatever guilt festers in their guts. But this woman only chews the inside of her cheek, glancing at the door every few moments, as if she's worried she'll be discovered. She needn't be. Every aspect of my craft is steeped in secrecy. Patrons book their appointments with me using a shrouded alcove around the side of the house, built specifically for the purpose. There's a little screen secured into the wall where patrons or their servants can murmur their needs to our house manager, Delphine. She even takes the payments through a slot and allows aliases on the bookings. A practice forbidden to the other graces. If Delphine guesses who the patrons are, she's paid well enough to keep her mouth shut. My current patron, who calls herself Mistress Briar, how original, seems to have forgotten about the great care Lavender House has taken to protect her identity. Despite the layer's cold, sweat beads on her upper lip, and she dabs it away with a lace handkerchief. She jumps every time Callum moves on her perch, ignoring her restlessness. I hold a long needle over a candle flame, and then with a quiet apology, I pierce one of Prince Markham's warts. He gurgles in protest as a few drops of his blood, so dark they're almost black, fall into the waiting vial. I add it to the rest of the mixture. Now for the most important piece. With a small scalpel, I press down on my finger. A line of green blood, the source of my power, wells. I count to 3, inhaling the faint scent of wood smoke and loam. That is my magic. So, as it dribbles onto the other enchantments, immediately the mixture hisses. I stir it with a long spoon until a cloud of black smoke erupts from the mortar. My patron covers her slender, high-born nose and coughs. For your cat. I raise an eyebrow, pouring the elixir into a vial and sliding it across the table. The more you use, the more Schwartz she'll get. She nods and pockets it, not daring to say another word, not even deigning to thank me. As the door snicks closed behind her, I curse the familiar, sickening feeling that settles like hot coals inside me. I should be used to these requests by now. I can't even count the number of ugliness elixirs I've produced over the years. And I'm bound by the Grace laws to satisfy my patron's needs, but the woman's abrupt dismissal still stings, as does every other slight I've endured since I began working in Lavender House. My patrons pay good coin for my services. but not one of them would willingly meet my eye if they passed me on the street. I am reviled and despised for the very reasons I'm sought out. A figure of dark, evil magic, a member of a race all but stamped out, a vila, a monster. Chapter 2. Honestly, if I have to shade Lady Dulcet's eyes, lavender one more time. Rose selects an apricot tart from a tiered stand at tea that afternoon. Her fluffy rat of a dog, Calliope, whines at her side. Today was the third appointment this month. It's in honor of the princess, surely. It's in honor of the princess, surely. Marigold chimes in, slathering a healthy layer of jam onto a scone. It is her birthday. I don't care what it is. Rose sucks sticky orange filling from her fingers and slips a scrap of ham to Calliope, who slurps it up and begs for another. Lady Dulcet should understand that it will take more than one of my elixirs to maintain the beauty of someone of her circumstances. You mean age? Laurel doesn't even glance up from the books that's balanced on her knees. And be careful. You've had to make Lady Dulcet 3 elixirs in a month. People will think you're